Hey guys, so last time we were looking at photosynthesis, and that was the conversion of carbon dioxide and water into glucose or other sugars and oxygen. So now we'll be focusing on carbohydrates, the use of solar energy and other energy sources such as biomass fuel. Carbohydrates are the most abundant constituent of plants and animals, and they're used as a energy storage system. So glucose is the store of energy because when we break it up, it will release energy for us to use. It's important also in plant structures such as cellulose. Cellulose is a sugar, but it forms like the cell wall and gives the plant structure so it doesn't fall over. It's also part of genetic control. So another sugar is ribose. Ribose is involved in DNA. And as we said before, generally the equation for sugar is CN, where N can be any number, H2ON, and N is the same number. There are different types of carbohydrates, such as monosaccharides, and we know mono means one. So these are simple sugars made up of glucose, such as glucose, C6H12O6, and they only contain one hexose unit. So one hexose unit is 6 carbon atoms. So here we know one hexose unit is monosaccharide is one sugar pretty much. So disaccharide, di meaning two, are double sugars. An example is sucrose, so we just doubled it, C12H24O12, and this contains 12 hexose units, so 12 carbon atoms in total. Remember, one was 6. Polysaccharides, poly meaning many, are polymers of glucose, so large chains of glucose molecules. An example is starch. Starch is an energy store. Cellulose is also a polysaccharide, and it's used for structure. And these all contain multiples of hexose units. So they have many carbon atoms and they form chains. So this makes polysaccharides use up a lot of energy to make them, because we need to put a lot of energy in to form a long chain. So carbohydrates are found in a lot of different foods and plants, and they use solar energy. But solar energy should be an important source of energy because the cost of fossil fuels like coal and petrol are going to be on the increase. Most solar energy is used up in the water cycle, however. And because solar energy is not always available, we need to look at different ways to store the energy. Only 2% of Australia's energy needs are supplied by solar energy, which is quite odd because we have a lot of sun here. So the sun gives out a lot of energy, and it can affect the earth in a variety of different ways. And each way we can harness energy from it. So we can have the sun hitting the mantle, so that's the surface of the earth, and hitting the surface of the earth, we can use that heat energy, such as in geothermal power. Another one was photosynthesis we just did. So the sun is used by plants to make sugars. The sugars we can then use to make ethanol, and as we know, ethanol is combustible and it's an energy fuel, so we can use ethanol to power cars. Photosynthesis also was used by plants millions of years ago, and when they died, they can form fossil fuels, such as oil, gas, and coal, and now we use them as fuels. The sun can also heat atmospheric effects, and this can then we can then use wind power. So when the sun heats the gases can move, giving us wind, and we can harness that movement for energy. And also hydroelectric, the movement of water. So there are a few different ways for the sun to be involved in a lot of our energy needs. But biomass fuel is a specific type of fuel, and it's a biological material from living or recently living organisms. It's a renewable energy resource because biomass things regrow. Only 0.02% of solar radiation reaching the Earth is used in photosynthesis. So if we want to use biomass, we need to make sure that the plants that we use have high photosynthesis rates, so it can use more solar radiation and produce more sugars for us. So biomass fuel involves photosynthesis, which is a chemical energy storage system, and produces biomass systems in plant life. After the plants die, they produce organic waste, which bacteria can then decompose, either aerobically, so using oxygen, or anaerobically, or which doesn't use oxygen. If it uses oxygen, it's pretty much like respiration. So we get carbon dioxide, water, and heat. And then this carbon dioxide water can be reused by other plants to make more sugars. But if we have anaerobic decomposition, we can produce methane. And this can be a form of chemical energy because when we burn methane, we produce a lot of heat, and heat can be used to heat houses or power cars. Also, when we decompose plants, we form inorganic nutrients such as in fertilizers, and this can then be also used back by plants that are alive to make more sugars. We can also get plants that are alive to make raw materials for fuel, and using certain enzymes, we can create alcohol. So alcohol is another fuel, and that can be burnt and combusted to give us heat energy. So as you can see, photosynthesis, which is the conversion of carbon dioxide and water into sugars, can give us biomass fuel, and really all of this is from the sun, energy from the sun. So with that, we can answer a few questions based on what we just learnt. And in this one, question 11, finish the incorrect sentence. Solar energy is mostly used in the water cycle. That's true. We said that a lot of solar energy goes into the water cycle. Only supplies 2% of Australia's total energy consumption. That was true. Most of it's probably based on fossil fuels. Requires a means of storing the energy. Yes, because the sun isn't up all day. So we need a means to store the energy that when it's up in the day, and then we can use it at nighttime, which is when it's gone. A, it's not considered to be a renewable source. Solar energy is considered to be a renewable source, so this sentence is incorrect, and therefore A is the correct answer here. Which of the following statements is about carbohydrates is incorrect? Carbohydrates can be used to store energy. Yes, they can, because carbohydrates, when bonds are broken, form a lot of energy. So this is incorrect. This is correct. Can be in short or long chains. Yes, we said monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. So this is correct. Carbohydrates are important in maintaining plant structure. Yes, because cellulose is in a lot of cell walls. Is the least abundant constituent in the biosphere. This is incorrect. Carbohydrates are the main constituent in plants and animals. So D is the correct answer in this case. 13A. Give an example of a monosaccharide. So monosaccharides only have one hexose unit, and that is glucose, C6H12O6. A disaccharide is sucrose, which was 2 sets of those. And a polysaccharide is multiple ones. So one of those is cellulose. So it's a chain of glucose units. Question 14. What important feature of plants is required to maximize the use of biofuels? Since we said that only 0.02% of solar energy reaching the Earth's surface is for photosynthesis, if we want to look at using this energy from photosynthesis, we need to consider it as inefficient because we're not using all the light in photosynthesis, and it's not economical. If we want to use biofuels, we must use plants which have a higher rate of photosynthesis. So we look about 5 to 10%. That is, they quickly and easily produce carbohydrates for us to use by using solar energy. Question 15. Explain why we need storage solutions for solar energy. So solar energy supplies us energy only during the day because that's when the sun is up. However, the day is generally, there's a lower demand for energy because we're not home to cook or clean or need heating or lighting. So in the night, we require energy for these things, so lighting particularly and cooking dinner. Also, we need it for entertainment because we're at home and we want to relax. So at this point in time, we don't have the sun to supply us. Therefore, we need to be able to store the energy from the sun in the day so then we can use it in the night. In summary, this lesson we were looking at how the sun is involved in a lot of energy processes, in particular photosynthesis, so making different types of sugars. And the different types of sugars were monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Also, we can look at how the sun can contribute to other forms of energy, such as heating the earth, and therefore geothermal energy. And finally, we were looking at photosynthesis, and then how we can use biofuels from plants that have already used photosynthesis to make sugars. And then these sugars, we can then use the energy, extract the energy later from either dead plants or still living plants.